Hello and welcome to Series 1, Episode 1 of the Kickin Tyres podcast. I'm Adam Gray and I'm joined by my co-host Tim Barnes-Clay. Tim, how are you doing? You all right?
Adam, do you want the truth? I'm absolutely knackered. Just come off 2 car launches back to back, but hey, it's not like going down a coal mine, is it?
No, fair play. We'll park that because I want to talk to you a little bit later about your adventures. But as I said, it's Series 1, Episode 1 of the Kickin Tyres podcast. Essentially, what is the Kickin Tyres podcast? Well, it's a no-nonsense motoring catch-up between two good mates who so happen to do the same job. Every fortnight, we're going to have a relaxed, straight-talking chat about cars, the launches that we go on, the cars that we've got on test, the automotive news that matters, and the truth behind the marketing spin. That's the really important bit, I suppose. And I wear many hats. I'm a motoring journalist. I'm a car buying coach. I founded the Car Buying Coach UK last year. And much like the Car Buying Coach UK, Kickin Tyres has zero brand bias. We're not tied to any brands, any dealerships, or any third-party services. So everything that we talk about is straight from the horse's mouth. We'll cut, through the jargon to give you our honest opinion on the cars that we drive and the experiences that we have. So yeah, as I said, Tim, good to have you. Thank you very much, mate, for joining me for the very first episode. What have you been up to?
Well, I mean, last week you and myself were burning around in a Chinese car. We can talk about that.
Yeah.
Today, I've been on another Chinese car launch actually, but I've been on 2 car launches back to back this week. Missed you because we've been on lots of stuff together recently.
I've
been on the Volvo. Yeah, an awful lot. I've been on the Volvo ES90 launch and then straight to the BYD Atto 3 Evo launch. So yeah, fairly sort of draining in some ways, but really good fun as well.
Excellent. Yeah, well, I'm going to ask you some questions about both of those launches a little bit later. But as you said, yeah, we've been spending a lot of time together recently. We were in Frankfurt at the beginning of last week, weren't we, for the MG Tech Day? What were you there for?
Well, I was there to do an interview with the tech experts, as well as a slightly less techie one with the creative guru there, just to talk about the design, the direction MG's going in. It kind of worked, I've got to admit. Some of the tech was going over my head there, so it was a case of trying to get it dumbed down enough for the average person to understand. It worked out really well. I enjoyed it. The flight over there was pretty cool. Enjoyed the beers with you the night before.
Yep.
Did you enjoy it?
That's the only reason I went, in all honesty, for the German beers. And I didn't tell you this, but on the way over, I was getting very much in the mood for my little Frankfurt rendezvous. That I even had a pretzel on board the plane on the way over and a German beer.
I see.
So yeah, so I landed and very much was in full German mode. Not to stereotype by any means. But yeah, no, I arrived after you, didn't I? Yeah, I arrived after you. Yeah, my flight arrived in about 8 o'clock and you had arrived earlier in the afternoon.
Yeah, loads of people when I got there, because the actual day was on the Monday, and yeah, you and I, as you say, flew on Sunday. And a few other journos were saying, well, why did you bother? Why didn't you just fly out with us on the Monday? And I said, I've had enough of getting up super early. It's quite nice and relaxed flying out on a Sunday. Although you had a slightly longer journey than me, didn't you?
Not on the way there. On the way back, I did. So on the way there, I flew Newcastle to Frankfurt, but on the way back, I took the long road home, and I flew Frankfurt to Amsterdam back to Newcastle. So yes, yeah, it was a long road home.
Yeah, but did you stop off longer in Amsterdam than you needed to, Adam? Just to relax at all, or did you get going quite quickly?
Unfortunately not. I didn't get to take in any of, of the many things that Amsterdam has to offer. Unfortunately, I was only there about 2.5 hours, which was just enough time to change terminals in Schiphol. It's a big airport, and there's lots of walking involved. So yeah, about 2.5 hours. But interestingly, going back to what you were saying about the MG Tech Day and why you were there, I was there to write up a piece for How to Geek, one of the outlets that I write for, and I'll be honest, much like you, it was very techy, which should come as no surprise. At the end of the day, it was a tech day. But they really went deep into the weeds about the tech behind the solid state battery technology that they've been working on, that they're shortly going to be rolling out across some of their vehicles, and also the hybrid plus technology that they spoke about. And I'll be honest, it wasn't until I was at Schiphol, had a bit of time to kill with a beer, and I looked at the press pack that we'd been sent, and I read that, and it finally like made sense. But in all honesty, the press pack was a dumbed down version of what we'd been, told on the day. And it was much closer to what I was intending to produce to put out to How to Geek's audience, breaking it down. So it's easy to understand, easy to digest. So yeah, but it was a good trip. It was short but sweet. Just over 24 hours, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I mean, to be honest, I had more fun interviewing the MG Global Design Chief, Jozef Kaban, who is just such a character. He's a lovely guy. And yeah, I was doing it for Regit, which the parent company is motoring.co.uk. Regit is a digital garage, if you like. So it helps people remember when their MOT and servicing is due. And it also provides lots of content, of which, I come into it there with reviews for cars and news. And on this particular occasion, as I say, it was about news. And sure, the big deal there was all about the new battery. But I thought, right, Joseph, he's a guy that really could do with chatting to. And so, as I said a bit earlier, it was all about the design direction MG's taking. And he just talks in very simple terms about, how he wants MG to appeal to, funnily enough, everybody. There isn't one demographic, but MG's quite affordable when it comes to electric cars and hybrid cars. So he was kind of discussing with me about how I said, "Are you constrained by sort of electrified cars?" And he went, "No, not at all. In fact, it gave him more of a way forward in many ways to think differently." And he seemed quite excited and quite genuine, and it's quite infectious when you speak to somebody who's clearly passionate about their work. So I got more from that. And then, of course, I did go and chat to a couple of the tech experts about this new battery, which you may have learnt more about than me, Adam.
Yes. As I said, it was a tough day to digest in terms of the info that was being thrown at us. I suppose the standout for me about the battery tech that MG has been working on, and for the benefit of our listeners who are wondering what on earth we're talking about, MG is the first manufacturer to roll out a solid state battery. And yeah, I think that's undoubtedly it's big news, um, albeit a 95% solid state battery. So it's definitely a step in the right direction. But interestingly, it was, and sorry, what I should say as well is about the benefits of solid state batteries over the LFP batteries that, or other types of batteries that you find in EVs, is that solid state batteries are claimed to be more better at working in cold temperatures. They're faster to charge as well. So those are the benefits, if you like, to the end user, the consumer who buys the car. But interestingly, and I don't know whether you noticed this as well, so again, for the benefit of the listeners, there was a kind of a talk, wasn't there, on stage? Initially, it was the UK brand manager. Don't ask me to remember names. I'm absolutely useless at names. So the UK brand manager did a talk for a couple of minutes. Then there was a scientist who's been heading up the solid state battery technology, and then there was another scientist slash engineer who's been working on the hybrid plus technology. Then later in the afternoon, we broke out into Q&A sessions, didn't we, with the two scientists to question them on their respective areas. Did you notice that when the engineer, the chap who'd been working on the hybrid plus technology, was questioned about whether EVs are the future, or what he said, "Oh, hybrids will be around for another 100 years." Did you pick up on that?
I did actually, and I cannot pronounce this chap's name very well, but
I'm
he's
looking for it
Doctor, and
myself.
I'll spell
Actually, I'm
it.
trying to find his name.
Yeah,
Doctor.
this guy's Doctor Q Chu, so QIU and then JIE. So I'll give you a quote from him. So I asked him, I said, how do you see the future of MG in terms of hybrid and electric vehicles generally? And he said, and I quote, he said, to understand the future, we look at today. Our current products are gaining strong acceptance with more customers embracing electrification. European drivers value efficiency, performance, and energy saving technologies, and that drives our development. So I was kind of asking him a little bit more. I pushed him a bit more, and I said, tell me more about hybrids and do they actually make sense? And he's going, yes, they're very well suited. And he was saying that they focus at MG on performance, efficiency, and funnily enough, battery capability. And he's saying really that modern electric motors, well, we both know this, that they provide high torque and fast response. But he was really then going on to say that hybrid batteries are larger than before, and that he sees that hybrids, as you said, they're not going anywhere.
Mm,
They are absolutely going to stay for a long time because I guess in many ways they want to cover all bases at MG. They're
yeah,
aware that some people don't want to commit to a full EV
full EV.
yet,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
they're sort of making hay while the sun shines, and that's how
It's
he
a
came
good.
across. And I actually said, well, I said to him, are hybrids a good option for those then? Not ready. And he was going, well, it depends on the usage, which is kind of, fairly logical. And I quote, he said, EVs are ideal for short daily journeys. Interesting, isn't it? What with
Hmm.
people, manufacturers making EVs with huge ranges at the moment.
Yeah.
Anyway, he goes on to say, but hybrids offer flexibility for longer distances. And our goal at MG is to make hybrids feel as close as possible to EVs in performance and refinement.
Interesting. Mm. Yeah, I personally see hybrids as being the sweet spot, if you like. They're ideal for those, as you quite rightly said, who are not quite ready to commit to going fully electric. And certainly the ranges on hybrids are more significant than full EVs. That being said, the technology that's going into the latest EVs is pushing it and pushing it further, and we're seeing the ranges, creeping up, and they're around about the 400 odd mile mark now. But interestingly, though, going back to what the doctor said, he mentioned, obviously, as you said, that he sees hybrids being around for the foreseeable. Well, he specifically said 100 years, for the next 100 years, and he said that plug-in hybrids are going to be the ones that are going to last the longest, if you like. They've got the longest shelf life. And I thought that was quite interesting as well. What did you make of that?
It was, yeah. I mean, in some ways, I thought, well, he's going to say that, isn't he? Being the
It's his
being
job.
the hybrid pro, yeah, exactly. So there was some spin there, although he's not a PR guy. But then you wonder how much he was asked to say that. And the other guy you were mentioning before is actually a guy called Dr. Li Zeng, which is Zheng, and that's the battery
Yeah.
expert there. Um, and what I did say to him was, why bring this technology to Europe? And he was saying, well, Europe wants to develop its own battery supply chain. And apparently, according to him anyway, if Europe, continues to rely only on existing technologies, it may struggle to compete. And this is why MG is introducing this new battery. And as you say, I suppose in some ways it makes complete sense with our weather and what have you. If they work better in the cold, that's the actual premise, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
I had no idea. I mean, most people don't, I guess, unless you're really, really into the granular side of things. But I was like, well, I just don't get it, how these things work. And he was saying that apparently traditional batteries allow lithium ions to move in one or two directions. Okay. And his material, or MG's material, enables movement in three directions, which improves, as you said, performance and pretty much stability, isn't it?
Yeah.
So this sort of semi-solid state technology ensures better durability and, quite key, a longer life cycle.
Yeah. Apparently they're going to last longer as well.
But do you believe it, though, that MG, MG was saying they're the first to bring this in?
I think they've just to say snuck in there before somebody else was probably about to, if the truth be told. Who, I don't know, but I know that several of the manufacturers are working on solid-state batteries. So it's a breakthrough in the sense that they're first to bring it to market, actually put it in a car, and it's going to go into the MG4 EV Urban, isn't it? Is that what
That's
they said?
it.
MG4,
That's the one.
EV Urban, yeah. You said something else there, though, which stood out to me. You said that they said that if Europe were to rely upon its existing kind of supply chain, then it would fall behind. Is that MG saying that they're doing the European? Which side of the fence are MG sitting on here is basically the question I'm asking, because obviously MG is traditionally a British brand. However, it is now Chinese owned. Which side of the fence are MG sitting on here? Are they helping the Europeans? Is that why they've done it? Or
that's how it came across to me. I mean, again, it's about how you perceive things. Very pleasant chap, just saying way MG is there to be the hero, to help Europe not fall behind. It wants to support Europe. And I mean, I don't know. I mean, their narrative is that Europe will struggle and will fall behind without this technology. Is that spin or is that reality?
Who knows? Watch this space. Yes, but it was a short and sweet trip to Frankfurt. I had a quick turnaround when I got home. I didn't get home till the early hours of the morning on the Tuesday. Had to get up early to crack on with some writing. For How to Geek on the MG Tech Day, so I could get that piece out and another piece that I was working on. And then I was back in the car and I was on the road again for a 5.5 hour drive down to the Cotswolds for another launch. And I had the pleasure of seeing your face again twice in 1 week. And that was the Changan Deepal S05 UK launch, wasn't it?
That's it. It was a great launch. I've got to say, that was one of the best UK launches I think you and I have both been on for a while.
It was a really, really good launch. Our rotation was spot on. And by rotation, I mean the journalists that were there. They hosted 3 rotations, didn't they? I think there was one the day before us, there was ours, and then there was one the day after. And somebody we were in Frankfurt with, Jim. Wasn't Jim on the rotation the day after? So yeah, our rotation, everybody was spot on. Everybody was up for a laugh. The venue was interesting, wasn't it? Why don't you tell everybody about the venue?
The House of Changan, wasn't it?
House of Changan.
It was just this really lovely building, and they're all yellow buildings. They seem to be in the Cotswolds. Beautiful,
yeah. Cotswold. I can't even speak. I'll put my teeth back in. Cotswold stone is what you're referring to.
Exactly. Which to the uninitiated means it's just yellow and it looks great. And loads of countryside around. Changan had pretty much added its name to every window and door I could see. So it looked like their house. So it was really chilled out. We were welcomed by the PR team, public relations team. And it was great. And we were given the cars, weren't we? So we were hooning the S05. I've been reliably informed it is the S05, not the S05. Which, just to be really Anuraki for a moment, is kind of like would you say a sort of a mid-sized or a fairly compact crossover?
Yeah, compact crossover. Yeah, it's probably.
Yeah.
I was looking. I actually wrote up my review of it today for How to Geek, and I was looking at the dimensions, and it's very similar in size to the Honda CRV.
There you go then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think the Honda CRV is slightly bigger, but yeah, similar in size. So a compact SUV. Yeah.
But everything these days seems to be an SUV. Everybody's calling everything an SUV that they make. So they're just so popular, aren't they? But to me, that S05 didn't feel like an SUV. I kept thinking it was more of a hatchback, but SUV/crossover it is. What do we mean by crossover, though? Is it literally between a hatchback and an SUV? That's what they mean, isn't it?
Yeah, essentially, it's a hatchback with a higher ride height.
Yeah, on
Yeah,
stilts.
yeah, on stilts. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I'm going to hold my hands up here because I had never heard of Changan until recently, and when we went on that on the launch, they brought us up to speed with the brand, and I found it really interesting that although here in the UK it's a totally unfamiliar name to us, Changan have actually been producing cars for over 4 decades. The company actually was established in 1862, and they've actually worked with some really big manufacturers. They've worked with Ford, and they've worked with Mazda, and most recently with Mazda on the Mazda XE. Is it?
I think they've worked with Suzuki as well, haven't they? Um,
Yeah, it's the Mazda 6e, which is essentially the Changan Deepal S07, which is another launch that you went on not that long ago, didn't you? Were you there? Were you there
yeah,
for that? Oh
yeah.
yeah, Birmingham. Was it in Birmingham?
It was, so Changan had actually launched that officially in the UK, I believe, around September of last year, so
Yeah,
2025. And then the company was offering drives from its R&D center in Birmingham,
yeah.
and I just took it for a small drive. Very, very pleasant, nice electric car. But the S05 has been, I believe, completely designed and engineered. And actually, no, the design was in Italy, wasn't it,
That's right.
for
Yeah.
that car?
So whilst
Yeah.
Changan is a Chinese state-owned company, as you quite rightly said, their research, their R&D center is in Birmingham. Um, and their design team are based in Turin, in Italy. So interestingly, so that's what I actually wanted to get on and talk about how it looks and how it drives. Um, just to give my to throw my two pence worth in. Looks wise, I don't know whether you feel the same, but every other week there's a new Chinese SUV comes to market, and if I'm being brutally honest, they all look the same. Um, there there must be some cookie cutter out there that the Chinese manufacturers have that they're using to design these cars, because if the truth be told, you can't really tell one from the other. However, Hangen kind of have acknowledged this. And the Changan Deepal S05, it's got a distinctive European look about it with some um, aviation elements, Easter eggs, if you want to. How very timely! It's Easter in a couple of days. Yeah, little Easter eggs hidden around it, which are pretty cool, but subtle at the same time. And then driving wise, again, another thing that these new Chinese SUVs are kind of falling down on is they're not they're not bad to drive, but they're not the most thrilling to drive. The driving dynamics haven't quite been honed. And obviously our roads, I don't need to tell you about the state of our roads, because everybody else knows the state of our roads. And don't get me onto the subject of potholes, because I'll lose my cool. Anyway, but the R&D team in Birmingham clearly know what's what when it comes to the UK roads, and therefore the car has been developed accordingly. And I thought it was a really competent compact SUV. I thought that it looks good. It was nice inside. The interior was plush. It felt well built. And as I said, driving wise, don't get me wrong, it was a little bit jiggly over rough parts of road, and the suspension was a little bit on the firm side. But all in all, I think it's a great introduction for the brand. So, what was your take on it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was blown away by the fact that Chang decided to give us an airfield to take the car out on as well. And we ended up not only, well, from sitting inside it, I'm absolutely on the same page as you. It looked really good, especially in that orange upholstery. Looked really cool.
That's cool.
So I sat in both the dark upholstery and then the orange one. All felt really well fitted together. Actually, I have looked at other reviews, and quite a few people have slagged it off and given it really sort of quite low marks. But I'd given it quite a good review. I just liked it, and I don't know. I mean, it did what? This is just plucking from my brain here. I'm not even looking at anything. 0 to 62 in about 7.5 seconds for the rear-wheel drive version.
Yep.
That's the only one that I think we had access to.
We didn't test the all-wheel drive. There's an all-wheel drive which has got the additional motor on the front axle. That is 420 horsepower versus the 268 for the rear-wheel drive version. And as you said, the rear-wheel drive does 0 to 62 in 7.5 seconds. All-wheel drive does it in a shade under 5.
Yeah, and to me, if you were driving a petrol car, you'd be quite happy with that 7.5 seconds, wouldn't you? I mean, that's quite quick still. It was more fun, I think, as well. Well, I'm assuming it would be more fun being rear-wheel drive. I certainly had a bit of a laugh in it, especially when we went to an airfield and we were told to sort of, basically, it was a bit of a chicane job going on. Then we had brake tests, didn't we? And then we had a competition. You did quite well. Explain what happened, because you ended up getting quite a good time, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. I felt like I was a little bit robbed, if the truth be told. I don't know what it is about when we go on these launches, when they're throwing these activities and there's a prize at stake. The competitive, side of me really comes out. So what we had to do is we had to hoon it from a standing start up a straight, and we had to emergency brake in a box, didn't we? Which put a little asterisk beside that, because somebody didn't stop somebody didn't emergency brake and had an additional 5 seconds added to their time. Tim.
Who's that then?
I don't know. Yeah, it was you. It was you. And if that didn't happen, it would have been a travesty. I made sure that you got punished for that. I was sat in my car because it was freezing cold. It was really windy. It was on and off rain, wasn't it? And I'm sat in my car waiting for my turn, and I'm thinking, I've got to beat Tim. If there's anybody that I've got to beat, it's got to be Tim. And I saw you hoon down the straight, and I thought, yeah, decent start. And then I thought, right, he's going to emergency brake here. Oh, no, he's not. He's just going to keep going. You slowed down, and then what you had to do, there was a U-turn, wasn't there, through some cones, and then you did a slalom, and then you had to emergency stop again in another box on an angle, and then you had to put it in reverse and do a reverse U-turn, and then there was like a zigzaggy 2 lines, and you had to keep between them in a zigzag pattern, and you reversed, then you had to stop, and you had to put the car in park and then swipe down on the infotainment screen and put it in rest mode, which essentially reclines the driver's seat, doesn't it? So I did it, and I think I came 4th. Yeah, and you time not registered because
Well, they told me at the time that I'd done it in a respectable, I think they were being kind, 58 seconds. However, they had to add 5 seconds on for my failure to stop in the initial white box. My excuse being that this white box was made out of white tape, half of which had blown away in the wind and rain. So I kind of stopped, but kind of didn't. And then when I did that weird reversing zigzaggy thing at the end, put it into park, I went to pull down on the screen. I did it. and then for some reason it didn't register, so it then kind of went off, and I had to then do it again. So they're all my excuses. There's the bin, there's the excuse bin.
Okay.
So a really lame time of 58 seconds plus 5.
So I did it in about 54. So what you're telling me is I still did it 4 seconds faster than your fastest time minus, and then you had 5 seconds added on. So what's that? Yeah, 9 seconds faster than you. Does that mean I'm better
I don't
driver
know how.
than
I
you
thought I
two?
did quite well.
I thought you did quite well, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't believe that 58. Maybe they were telling me it's 58 seconds, including the 5. I feel better now by pretending that was what happened.
No, I thought when you were going to say it was, one of the bits that really stood out to you was going to the airfield. It certainly was. I thought you were going to go back to talking about the house and say who owned the house. You haven't mentioned who owned the house, and I didn't.
Go on.
I didn't know who it was at first, but then I googled
Go on.
him.
Go on. Tell everyone.
So, I asked. At dinner on the evening, I asked who's the PR for Changan, and I said, "Oh, I've heard that the house that we're in today is owned by somebody who's pretty well known, somebody who's famous." And she said, "Yes, Simon Le Bon." And I was like, "Sorry, who?" And she said, "Simon Le Bon. You know Simon Le Bon?" And I was like, "No, no idea who Simon Le Bon is." Anyway, I googled it, and it transpires, well, unbeknown to me, Simon Le Bon was the lead singer of Duran Duran. Oh, obviously, I know of Duran Duran.
Still is, I think, isn't it?
It still is, yeah. I don't know if they're still together. I haven't Googled. I haven't gone into that much detail. But yes, and but what a lovely home. I believe it's his holiday home. And he was there the week before we were there. But lovely home, beautifully decorated, lovely kitchen, and had a pool and a hot tub outside, didn't it? And after the dinner on the evening, we got to go back and we enjoyed a few drinks there with the Changan team and the other journalists. And what else happened then?
Oh, it was cool. Well, I seem to remember the MD of Changan, Nick Thomas, picked up one of the random guitars that just happened to be leaning against a wall and started playing really, really well and singing really, really well.
Yeah.
And I was like, this guy, how long have you been playing the guitar? And I think it was only 7 years or something.
Yeah.
What I didn't realise is he'd been in a band. And in fact, he said he'd been in several bands. And he was at another manufacturer, Nissan, before Changan. And he'd been in the official Nissan band.
Yeah, Nissan has a band, or had a band, yeah.
So
how
what
cool
the hell?
is that?
Who knew?
Yeah.
Who knew? And it was great because you could just, I think you put in a few requests and he pretty much played and sang most of them, didn't he?
He did, yeah. Counting Crows.
Yeah.
I remember we were sat next to each other on the sofa, looking at each other in like amazement. Is this really happening? How surreal! We're at this launch of a car, and I can honestly say it's the first launch I've ever been on where the MD's got out a guitar and started playing it and singing. But he was fantastic. It was such. Going back to what we said at the start, great launch, very well looked after, great vibe. Everybody's just lovely. So yeah, excellent.
Such a good vibe. I mean, can anyone see this? I don't know. Hang on. Oh no, you're not going to be able to see that. But Nick, you can't see that.
There's me.
Nick is playing. Oh no, you won't. All you can see is the reflection. Nick is basically there, just playing away, and we're just sat around, chilling out, listening to that, and it was really good. And that's why I think, I don't know why, the vibe was one of the best, wasn't it?
Yeah.
When it comes to the UK car launches, brilliant.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, I don't know if you heard that message there. Did you hear that?
Yeah,
some
a message, a disembodied voice.
I know, what's going on here. I don't even know what that was. I don't know whether it was my Bluetooth speaker and on my windowsill, it's got Alexa, and I don't know whether it was that.
Make sure your speaker is connected and try again.
Come back to haunt you.
Come back to haunt me? Bear with. Sorry. We'll just go to a commercial break. Yes, it was. It was my Bluetooth speaker. Apologies for that. Yeah, I didn't expect that to happen. Anyway, moving swiftly on. So we came back from the Changan launch a week ago today, and you've just got back from 2 other launches. Do you want to tell me about those?
Yeah, so I've been on the Volvo ES90 launch, which was really good. It's a big saloon, effectively. Did an interview there with the fleet manager and just to get an insight into it. And in many ways, I think that Volvo has not lost its way whatsoever. Some people question whether going down the sort of saloony route where SUVs are still majorly popular is a good idea. But I really liked it, and it sort of marks the Swedish firm's entry into the all-electric executive car class, and it felt absolutely executive. It feels huge. I'm not sure I'd want to take it into a multi-story car park because it is a big car, but it handles well. It's quick, sort of just really comfortable. And then I went straight from that to the BYD Atto 3 Evo launch, and I've literally just walked in the house before we did this podcast from that. Again, BYD, if no one's heard of it, where have you been? Stood or still stands for Build Your Dreams. Kind of a very nice car, competent. I've got to write the review about it, but it was very lovely. In Oxfordshire, we ended up having a drive of the rear-wheel drive and the all-wheel drive models. Again, I've got to let it process before I do the review. I had a chat with Bono G, head honcho there at BYD, telling me that clearly he's going to say this, BYD is going nowhere. So, it's going to end up completely, it's not going to leave here, domination. I think you'll find it's very difficult to go anywhere in the UK without seeing a BYD model. And as I said earlier, if you didn't know what BYD stands for, what you do now, it stands for Build Your Dreams. And that's questionable. They're pretty affordable, very nice, competent enough electric cars. Are they, though? And I'll use a phrase you use. Are they cookie cutter? Are they? Is it a sort of car that you'd look at and go, that's a BYD? Apart from if you didn't see the name, or would you question what it was?
Yeah, I think I'd have to hold my hands up and say, yeah, probably wouldn't. They don't really stand out against. I mean, don't get me wrong, some of the models do, but some of them don't. They do look very kind of similar to many of the other Chinese vehicles that we're seeing come to market. It's interesting. So then, what I wanted to talk about now is comparing the Chinese giant BYD against the latest market entrant, Changan in the UK. So the Atto 3 and the Changan Deepal S05 are both compact SUVs, correct?
Yeah, and I have to say the BYD Atto 3 Evo that this is, sort of the evolution, if you like, from the Atto 3 that was actually introduced not that long ago. It's a good car, but this is my opinion, really. Of course it is. The Changan S05 was and is probably preferable, purely because the looks of it appealed to me more. I don't know why. It just felt slightly different. I don't know. Would you agree on that one, looks wise?
I haven't seen the Atto 3 Evo in the flesh. Obviously, I've seen the Changan Deepal S05 in the flesh. And as I said, one of the things that really kind of pulled me in with it is the fact that it looks more European. You can tell it's being designed in Europe. The team have done a great job of designing it, and on paper it's efficient too, with a drag coefficient of 0.26. I'm going to ask you this: if a friend came to you and said, it's a toss-up between the Atto 3 Evo or the Deepal S05. Which would you advise them is the best all-rounder, and that they should spend their own, put their own money on?
I would say go for the Deepal S05, but only go for the rear-wheel drive one because that's the cheaper one.
Yeah, cheaper. It's 37,990 on the road versus 39,990 on the road for the all-wheel drive. But all you're gaining is literally the drivetrain, because looks-wise, spec-wise, in terms of the kit that you get, they're exactly the same, aren't they?
Yeah, and the BYD Atto 3 Evo, remember that Evo bit's important because that's the 2026 version. That, as of April the 2nd, is on sale in the United Kingdom from 38,990. So very, very
Similarly
closely
priced.
priced.
Yeah.
And that's for the entry-level design model. But the highest spec excellence model that I drove today is 42,730. So again, very similar to the rear-wheel drive and the all-wheel drive. But I think you'll find the Changan, it is cheaper, isn't it? The S05
Yeah,
generally.
even the all-wheel
Both.
drive variant still £2,000 cheaper,
Both.
and Changan have made the buying process simple. There is just one trim level across both models, and the only things that you can spec on the car are the colour, the interior
That's right.
choice, which is either black or orange, and the
Yeah.
only optional extras that you can spec are a tow bar for 600 quid or the panoramic roof for £1,000. But at the moment is an introductory offer. Anybody who gets a buys a Changan Deepal S05 gets the panoramic roof for free, so they save £1,000. So yeah, interesting.
But so I would still go for the S05. But if you're really, really, really into speed, and clearly have a look at the all-wheel drive version of the S05. The Atto 3 Evo is really quick because even the design version, and let's remember that's 38,990. Design version will do 0 to 62 in 5.5 seconds, and that's compared with, was it 7.5 seconds for the rear-wheel drive?
Yeah.
And wow, the all-wheel drive version, 0 to 62 in 3.9 seconds. Doesn't look actually that fast, the car. For some reason, the S05, the Changan, looks slightly, well, to me anyway, slightly more athletic.
Yeah.
But again, it's in the eye of the beholder, isn't it?
Definitely. So we're going to move on to a segment now where we talk about, let's call it the no spin zone. So news and trends. I saw a story just yesterday, actually, which is I thought was quite interesting. I'll certainly be letting clients of the Car Buying Coach UK know about this. But essentially, a new driveway rule has started yesterday, April the 1st, and it affects many UK homes. So it affects people who rent or own flats, landlords, and businesses. And essentially, people who've been put off from switching to an EV due to the absence of a driveway are being targeted in this rule change that comes into effect, as I said yesterday. And a significant rule alteration is increasing the grant that's available to people who are looking to have an EV charger installed at their property, is increasing from 350 quid to 500 quid. So renters and flat owners can apply, as well as businesses, schools, and other organisations. And the government stated that it would typically cover half of the cost of installing an EV charger at home. So, I mean, as the Car Buying Coach UK, when I've got my Car Buying Coach hat on, I do speak to a significant amount of people who I ask them, would you consider going electric or a plug-in hybrid? And they say, no, couldn't go electric because I live in a terraced house, or I live in a flat and I couldn't have a charger installed. Obviously, technology is coming on, and for those who don't have a driveway, obviously there's an alternative solution now, such as cross pavement chargers. So yeah, I thought that was quite interesting. What do you make of that?
Well, I certainly think it will make EVs more accessible. Range anxiety will hopefully go down. The question is, though, would you? I already know the answer to this, though. Go for an
Would I what?
EV.
Would I have an
Go for
EV?
an
Would I
EV.
buy an EV?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
own an EV.
You've already got one,
Yeah.
haven't you?
Yeah, I've already got one. Yeah. So I've had my EV about a year and a half now. And I had a charger installed literally the day after I bought the car. Cost about just short of £1,000 to have installed. But yeah, great service by the local installation company that put it in, and yeah, I'm really pleased with it. Never had any issues with it. So, but it's interesting. I definitely think the government are literally throwing everything, including the kitchen sink, into trying to, push people to move in the EV direction. And this is just another kind of incentive, if you like, to go full electric, but that's counteracted by the fact that there's going to be this uh, mileage charge that is going to be slapped on EV owners as well. So
I think people are confused. I remember I was in a position where I had to choose a company car in 2003, and I had got great lists, and I was being pushed in the diesel direction by the company. It was all go and get a diesel. And do you remember the government was all diesel, diesel, diesel
yeah.
back then?
Mm.
And here we are 20 odd years later, and it's all go electric or hybrid if you don't want to go fully electric. What I'd like to ask you is, what made you go fully electric? What gave you that confidence to say, yeah, I can handle an EV?
I was in a very fortunate position in the sense that as a motoring journalist, I'd already tested quite a few EVs. Now, I'll be honest, I didn't have a charger at home when I tested those cars. So I had to rely upon public chargers, which in all honesty, they aren't cheap to use. You're paying sometimes in the region of £1 per kilowatt to charge. So, and the infrastructure, whilst it is improving, I did have some pretty bad experiences once. I remember I had a Polestar 2 on test, and I went over to the Lake District, and on the way home I stopped at a charger, which was in an underground car park of a supermarket, and the supermarket was closing, so they were closing the shutters on the underground car park, so I couldn't use it. I then had to go to a service station, and they'd switched them off because apparently they hadn't been installed properly. And when the lorries go over the top of the forecourt at the service station, it plays havoc with the chargers. So in an evening, they turn them off, and yeah, it was just a nightmare. So, but to be honest, that wasn't enough to put me off, because I knew that if I had a charger at home, and the amount of driving that I'd be doing, that I'd very rarely use public chargers. So, and it was a big shock to the system, I'll be honest, because my previous car was a BMW M2. Obviously, sporty little car, very performance orientated. But if the truth be told, it cost a lot to run. It had a small fuel tank. It cost a lot to fill it up. Insurance wasn't cheap. Tax wasn't cheap. That I had the car on finance, so the finance wasn't cheap. And the amount that I was using it, I couldn't warrant keeping it. So originally the plan was to sell it, and just to, as we both do, often rely upon the loans that we get and do without our own car. However, I got cold feet itchy feet, should I say, about a month after selling my M2, and thought I need to buy something else. And that's when I thought to myself, you know what, is now the time to buy an EV. I've had enough experience with them. And when I priced up, Tesla Model 3 Performance, which is what I ended up going for, versus, a comparable BMW or a Mercedes or an Audi, there was one clear winner, and that was the Tesla. It was going to save me money on insurance, tax at the time. I wasn't paying tax on it. Having the home charger meant that I could charge it up and pay about £6 to charge it fully. I don't regret my decision, don't get me wrong. I'm a petrol head, through and through, and I do miss the kind of I do miss the sound. That's the long and short of it. And I miss, I loved my M2. It used to pop and crackle on the overrun. Not a boy racer Corsa style, but you know what I mean? It's I do miss it. Whereas the Tesla's just, it ticks all the boxes, but it's just missing that certain je ne sais quoi, should I
Are
say.
you sure you weren't one of those guys that put one of those things on the end of your exhaust to make it sound really poppy
Yeah,
and
like when you
cracky?
used to put a playing card with a peg on your the spoke of your bike to make it sound like a motorbike.
Yeah.
That's what I did basically with my M2. It wasn't really an M2. It was just a bog standard 220 petrol that I put that I put something on
But
the exhaust to make it sound better.
Adam, have you had any Musk hate yet driving a Tesla?
Not personally. Not personally, but I came in for loads of flack off my mates when I got rid of my M2. They were like, Are you for real? Like, why would you get rid of your M2? It was a great car. Looked the business and sounded, the business, and then you've gone for an EV. Is there something that you're not telling us? And, as I said, I had my own reasons. I wanted something that, was performance orientated, something that was more practical than the M2, something that was ultimately, something that was, had an element of luxury about it. And ultimately, though, something that was more economical, and going to be cheaper in the long run. And the Tesla Model 3 Performance has ticked all those boxes. And it is a great car, but I do miss my M2.
That's the thing, isn't it? It comes down to emotion. And assuming people are listening or even watching this, and they go, "Does it really matter? Does it matter what car I have at the end of the day, as long as it's reliable?" Sometimes I think I'm going more and more down that road. Because I have had cars that emotionally I loved, like I've had BMWs 1 Series, but the lights, I never trusted it. It used to light up like a Christmas tree on the dashboard. Used to go wrong quite regularly. So I've just gone more and more towards having something reliable and economical. But yeah, I still can't quite get rid of the emotional side. So, I've got friends who couldn't give a damn about a car, not at all.
Mm.
But, you and I are talking, and your mates, interestingly, is an image associated, isn't there, with that BMW, for instance. And in their eyes, the Tesla hasn't quite matched
Yeah.
that image of that Beamer. And I wonder what
No.
that's all about,
Yeah. Yeah, I've never thought of it that way. People associated that car with me, and yeah, clearly they don't hold the Tesla in the same regard. That being said, I have taken a couple of the naysayers amongst my friends for a little blast out in the Tesla, and it short sharp changed the mind and their view on EVs in general. And the most common thing that they say is, you know, new EVs were fast, but I didn't realize they were this fast. And it's like, yeah, like that Tesla will do 0 to 60 in about 3.2 seconds. You find me a car as practical as this, that's as cheap to run. It's got all the tech on it, and it is relatively luxurious. That costs you £6 to charge fully, and you get in the summer about 280 miles on it, and they're like, well, yeah, you can't find anything precisely. So that kind of silences them somewhat, but you can't convince everybody. And at the end of the day, everybody's entitled to their own opinions. But I've experienced that transition, and again, going back to the Car Buying Coach UK, I chat to my clients about the transition and how I found it, and stuff that they need to be aware of. So yeah, but on the subject of efficiency, one other news story that I saw this week that I thought was quite interesting, although not interesting in as a serious way, interesting in as a, oh, like, could they be for real? But essentially, UK drivers are being urged to reduce their speed by 10% in April. They're being advised to reduce the speed by 10% as oil prices are expected to surge further in April as a result, of the war in Iran. And it's the AA that have advised that by slowing down that amount, it improves fuel efficiency while still keeping up with the flow of traffic. So prepare to be on the road with a bunch of Sunday drivers. You're not going to get anywhere quickly, and we're going to be cursing people who are driving like Miss Daisy.
Yeah, and it all makes sense, though, to do that. I don't know how much of all this is a bit of a media panic. Have you seen any forecourts jam-packed with cars queuing for the pumps yet?
Not personally, no, but I wouldn't, because I drive an EV.
Exactly.
And that's not me trying to be clever by any means. So I want to put that out there. That's not me being clever. Of course, I've driven past petrol stations. I've looked at the forecourts. No, in answer to your question, I haven't seen any.
See, I haven't. And it depends where you live. Like my mum, she rang me up from Norfolk and she was like, oh, the local petrol stations. She lives in a market town in the middle of Norfolk, so it's, fairly remote. Oh, there's all queues at our local Tesco's. Oh, it's terrible. I said, are you sure? I work from home a lot, but as we've been talking about, I've been away the last few days on launches, and I've been driving a lot around the UK, and no, I've not seen one single queue anywhere. But good advice, though, from, I'm assuming, Edmund King at the AA, giving us those tips.
Yeah.
Makes perfect sense, doesn't it, to do that? Will people listen? Will people slow down?
No, of course they won't. Of course they won't. Yeah. I think that's it. I think it's time to wrap it up, Tim.
It is. I'll just say one thing only. Just going back to the noise. That's the only thing that you missed from your BMW, the noise of the car, compared with the silence of the EV. That's the thing I miss. And I will say something I'm looking forward to getting. I've kind of got it in already, actually. Couldn't be any more different. Couldn't be any more different to a Tesla.
Lucky man. I know what's coming here. Tell them.
So I've gone the polar opposite of an EV, decided I've got a test out for a luxury magazine. Of course I have. A Bentley Bentayga Speed. And if you don't know what that is, it's a high-performance luxury SUV featuring a 4-litre twin-turbocharged V8 engine that makes a bloody racket. And it's great. I love it. Straight away, my son went, "Dad, we've had this delivered." I hadn't even got home from this BYD launch, and he was already telling me about it. The neighbour, I kid you not, texted me going, "That's a whip you got on your drive. Wow, that's a baller's car, mate. Are you going to take me out?" Never taken him out in any car yet, but he was looking at that. That's the effect that a car like that still has on people. Cars like that won't be made in a few years.
No.
Kind of a shame, isn't it?
It is a shame, and I can vouch for how good that Bentayga Speed sounds, because a couple of months ago I was down at Bentley's factory in Crewe. I was collecting a flying spur Speed, and one went past me, and I heard this burble as it went past. What's that? Bentayga Speed. Nice. It's a baller's car, proper footballer's car. Lovely.
It really is. But this has a very similar 0 to 62 time as your Tesla.
Yeah, and it'll be heavier than my Tesla as well. Don't get me wrong, mate. Tesla's heavy, but it'll be heavier. Yeah.
Well, Bentley does the 0 to 60. I don't know. I guess I could probably find it if I Googled it now, but 0 to 60 in 3.4 seconds.
Yeah, so a fraction. I mean, Tesla doesn't officially, well, they didn't for my age Model 3 performance, but I believe it to be around about 3.2 seconds.
And not that I can do
maybe
this
a little
speed.
bit more.
Well, because it's got the word speed in it, clearly it has to be speedy. And I'll never do it in the UK unless I find a nice person to open an airfield for me. 193 miles per hour on this car, which at the end of the day is an SUV.
Yeah,
incredible,
a big family hauler, and it hauls. A beast, yeah. Wow. Well, next podcast, I will be asking you about that. Please get some pictures, some video. That's all for Series 1, Episode 1 of Kickin Tyres. Thank you very much for joining us. As I said at the start, we're going to be recording this podcast fortnightly, and we're going to be putting it out a few days later on all major platforms. So on Amazon, on Apple, on Spotify, and on YouTube. And we're on socials. Give us a follow. As I said, we're across all socials. As is the Car Buying Coach UK. Again, if you want any car buying advice, please get in touch. And also going back to the podcast, if you've got any feedback about the first episode, or you've got a question for us, or you want to tell us something interesting, or even if you want to be a guest on the show, then please reach out via email. It's hello@kickintyres.pod.co.uk. Tim.
Well, listen, I look forward to telling you more about that Bentayga after this podcast. Over the weekend, I'll be filming it in a bit of a collab with one of our colleagues, Dave Thomas, who runs the channel Auto Bears. So I thought I'd drop that in there, Dave. For Dave, anyway, at least.
Excellent. No, pass my regards on to Dave. Dave's been chatting to you, actually, hasn't he, recently about the podcast? He's excited for the launch of it. So, as have a few other people on the launches that we've both been to. They've been inquiring about when the first episode was happening, and here it is. So it'll reach you all in the next few days.
Yeah, we've been talking to Bridgestone as well. So I've got a wet and dry handling day coming up with them. So yeah, hopefully we'll talk more about Kickin Tyres.
And I'll tell you, hopefully, it probably won't be by the time we next record the podcast, but I've got a Ranger MSRT coming as well. pickup truck, one of those street pickup trucks,
Sick.
quite low. Looks cool
Nice.
piece of kit. Yeah, so I'll
Nice.
be able to tell you about that soon as well. So, but in the meantime, thank you very much again for listening, and take care, mate, and I'll speak to you soon.
Cheers, Adam.